I feel like I have two speeds, not buying books and then buying a million books within a very short span of time. Spooky, creepy, sorry for exposing you to this. I'm finally cracking. I'm very excited to see what I think about this book. Hello everyone and welcome back to Vlogmas Day 7. I can't believe I've done 7 days of this and I hope you've been enjoying them. I'm having not the greatest day mentally, and so there's no better time than that to curl up with a fur throw and spend some time books. This past week I've really accumulated some books. I feel like I have two speeds, not buying books and then buying a million books within a very short span of time, and that's kind of what I've been doing this past week. So I want to talk about these. Mostly I have mysteries, thrillers, and a few fantasy books, which I'm just starting to dabble in very lightly. A mystery book with a good subplot of romance is probably like my absolute ideal book ever. I've been thinking of how I want to break out of that next, but I did also happen to buy a lot of books in my comfort zone here. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then stay tuned so you can see what I bought. I think I'll do this in the order that I bought them for no reason other than that's just what I think I should do. Starting off, I went to one of my favorite secondhand bookstores and picked up a few things that I was very happy about. Number one is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This is a title that I've heard a lot of people talk about, but I haven't really retained any information about what the book is supposed to be about. It says it's a modern gothic fantasy, which I think sounds amazing. I love anything that has gothic sort of vibes to it, and for someone who's just getting into fantasy, this looks like it's very straightforward and gonna be pretty easy to understand. And I'm pretty sure it's a standalone book, which is nice because I've been really delving into a lot of series and I've been wanting a few standalone books to just break that up so that I don't feel too like stuck, committed to reading like 3 to 5 to 8 to a million books just because I picked the first one up and liked it. So I'm excited about this. It is about a girl who, what is this about? Honestly, I've read the back of this book many times since I bought it, and I forget what it's about every single time. Not because the story even sounds forgettable, but I just, for some reason, it keeps slipping through cracks in my mind. So basically the main character starts working at this like old mansion in their town. I don't even think the back of the book says what her job is in the mansion, so that will be interesting to find out. But basically when she starts working there, it just looks like things start to take a very dark turn. Also, the way that this book is laid out is very cool. It has some illustrations in it, which I think is really interesting. There's not too many to where it takes up like a lot of the pages or anything, but they're really gorgeous. Each chapter begins with these margins, which I think is really an interesting way to like denote the beginning of a chapter. I don't know, anything that's like a little bit different in terms of layout in a book I really find interesting. So excited to read that. Also at this bookstore, I was so in luck. I found 2 vintage Agatha Christie covers that I thought were so gorgeous, and then they happened to both be books of hers that I wanted to read anyways. This one is The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, and this is what the cover looks like. It is so spooky, creepy. Sorry for exposing you to this. This one actually doesn't have like a synopsis on the back. It's a like insert from the book. I don't remember what this is about, but I do remember it was on my list of books of hers that I wanted to read, so I'm glad I picked this up, and it was under like $5. And then the next is The Moving Finger. This is what it looks like. Any gardeners out there watching, this Japanese beetle here, I know is probably very triggering for you, as it was for me looking at this, because I hate these bugs. This also has really interesting teal sprayed edges, which I think is fun. This one is about a little village in England where basically anonymous letters start showing up, like revealing secrets about people in the town, I think. and it all links to a murder. I think that's what it's about. The synopsis on the back was not as lengthy as the one I had read on a different cover, but very excited about that. Next, I got a book that I've been wanting for a while, and I was actually going to buy this on one of my next trips to Indigo, but I was at a like overstock liquidation place where they sell overstocked or like flawed products from Costco, and so they had a book section there, and lo and behold, it was there for $5, and there's nothing wrong with it. But this is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I had to take a break from thrillers for a while, but I've just been really craving reading like a super fast-paced book that I can just binge in like 2 days and get really skittish and freaked out by. And so I think Riley Sager books are perfect for that. I've read The Last Time I Lied and Lock Every Door by him, and I liked them. They definitely have their flaws, and they definitely have some pretty specific tropes, I think, that follow throughout the books that I'm not the biggest fan of. But the concept for this sounds pretty interesting. This takes place in 1991, and it's about a college student who uses a rideshare board to get a ride home from New Jersey to Ohio because she's basically running away from her life at college because her best friend was killed by a campus serial killer. Basically, this man offers to give her a ride home, and as the ride progresses, she's trying to piece together whether he is the killer or not. So I think it sounds really interesting. It takes place over one night, which I kind of like reading a plot that's like that fast-paced as a nice change from something that like drags out more. I actually already started reading this on the way home from the road trip that I posted about a few days ago, and I read this out loud to my boyfriend. I said it as a joke, and he was actually like, yeah, sure, do it. And he got very hooked onto the story, so now I feel as though I can't continue reading this without him. So we'll see if I stick to that or if I sneakily read this on my own. Next, I was at a thrift store a few days later. I was just browsing through the book aisle, and this spine caught my attention. If you're familiar with a lot of thriller books, a lot of them use this font. And so instantly I recognized this, and the hot pink, I knew that it was this book, and I snatched it up very quickly. This is The Paris Apartment by Lucas, by Lucy Foley. She wrote The Guest List, which I also have, but I haven't gotten around to reading yet. So I've been wanting to try out her books and see if I like her writing style. This is about a girl who goes to stay with her brother in his apartment in Paris, but when she arrives there, he is missing, and so it just kind of follows the people that live in the building and like what makes them suspicious in regards to this disappearance of his as she's trying to figure out what happened. I've heard good things about this, but I don't really remember anything specific I've heard, so I'm excited to read this. This cover gives the exact same vibes of Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, with the hot pink and the old fancy building, and I loved that book. Like, that was my ideal creepy atmosphere book, and so I'm hoping that this gives me the same vibes as that book. But hopefully I'll have that kind of claustrophobic, you're being watched kind of feeling in this book, because that's what I like in my thrillers. Next, I was at the bookstore, and I'm finally cracking. Not that I've had anything against this series, I haven't. I just haven't really thought that it would be my cup of tea until I read Caraval by Stephanie Garber, which was the first fantasy book I've ever read. And then I was like, wait a second, maybe I do like fantasy. Caraval is definitely a very different vibe than this one, but I think it was just reassuring that like you can jump genres. It's an extremely popular fantasy romance series. Can you guess what it is? I'll give you one guess. You guessed it right. It's A Court of Thorns and Roses. Everyone and their mother has read this, I feel like, and I'm very behind the bandwagon, but I've heard enough people sing its praises that I think it's time to give it a go. If you are at all a reader of fiction and a watcher of book videos, I'm not even going to spend time talking about what this is because you probably already know. So I don't know when I'm gonna start this. This lighting, oh my gosh, it's getting on my last nerve. Look at me, the ghost I am. So I don't know when I'm gonna get to this because I feel like if I like this, I'm gonna be so invested in the series and I'm gonna have to binge it and like abandon any other books or genres for this. So I'm just not in a place to do that at this very moment, but when I am, I'm very excited to see what I think about this book. Next, again, I had some good luck at a thrift store, which I don't always, and it takes a really long time to find any titles that I actually am interested in, at least at the thrift store I go to the most often. I've had better luck at other locations, but this one is just abysmal with their book selection, so it takes me quite a while to find them, but I did come away with 3 books by authors that I've been wanting to check out, so I'm excited about that. The first one I think is a romance. You can let me know if you've read this, but it's What You Wish For by Catherine Center. I haven't heard anything about this book specifically, I don't think, but I have heard people really rave about her books. I'm not really like a romance person. I haven't read that many romances, but like I'm extremely cringed out very easily when I'm reading any sort of romance in a book, so it has to be like the right romance plot to get me invested. Not that I can't be invested, but it just has to be the right one. And so I feel like a book like this that kind of feels like it has more of a substantial plot going along with the romance might be something I like, I don't know. But this is about a school librarian, which I think is already a really adorable main character to have, who gets a new job at a new school, and a man that she worked with at her previous school gets a job there as the principal or the vice principal, the principal, except he is totally changed from the person that he used to be. He used to be like fun and lovable, and now he's this like really stern, angry person. And I think some sort of tragedy or something happened or is going to happen. I don't know. I have no idea really what the plot aside from the romance is in this book. It's very like vague on the back cover, but the premise sounded like something I could probably get on board with for when I want to switch up genres and not have my books be about like so much murder. Next is another thriller, and this is The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I feel like I've heard a lot of people talk about Ruth Ware recently, and I can't for the life of me remember if it's been good things or bad things. So I thought, low investment from the thrift store, I would give this a try. This sounds very close to the kind of plot line of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Basically, it's about a group of friends who went to Oxford together, and one of them was murdered. So there's a time jump to the future where 2 of the characters from the original group are together, they have a baby together, and the man who was imprisoned for the murder of their friend died. Then a journalist shows up with information that leads them to believe that he wasn't actually guilty. So again, very similar to the plot of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, if you've read that. Sounds interesting, maybe more like mystery vibes than thriller vibes, but I guess I will have to find out. And then again, keeping with that theme of me not knowing whether this is a mystery or a thriller, I also picked up The Maid by Nita Prose, and I'm so excited. I think this is gonna be, out of all the books I got, probably the next one that I read. This is about a girl who gets a job as a maid at this like fancy hotel, which already sounds like such a good atmosphere for a mystery or a thriller. One day, a very wealthy and well-known man dies in the hotel. Through speaking with the police, they begin to suspect Molly, our main character, as the murderer. The end of the synopsis says, a clue-like locked room mystery and a heartwarming journey of the spirit, which sounds so amazing. And there is a sequel to this book, so if I enjoy this, then I can give that a try. The sun has graced us for a very dramatic ending to this video. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it wasn't really a vlog at all, but I'm just trying to get as much content out as I can every day, whatever that means for fitting it in my schedule. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what you thought down below. No spoilers. I am so excited for that week in between Christmas and New Year's where I can just hide from the world and plow through a pile of books. If you enjoyed this video, you can give it a like down below, and down there you can also check out yesterday's video. That will be in the description box. You can also subscribe so that you know every single time I post this month. It should hopefully be every single day until Christmas. So I will see you back here tomorrow.